You are welcome to another edition of The Voyage. This is a podcast that is for people who have migrated to the US. It is interesting to know that nobody can tell our stories like ourselves, our transitions, our trials, and the triumphs of immigrants in the US. Whatever part of the country that you migrate to the US, your story is unique and your story is special. And this is a platform for you to share your story. And today, I have a wonderful guest with me. I have seen that we have a lot of things in common already, but we'll go deeper into our story. We'll go deeper into our story, and it will be fun, it will be exciting, it will be inspirational, and it will be also educative. So don't miss any part of this session. Wow, it's nice to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
So to get it started, for me, I always like to step outside of my comfort zone. And so it's something that I don't do often. And when I reach out to the platform that we all belong to at work, I'm looking for people that would like to share their story. And you reach out to me. That was like, wow, you made my dream to come true by reaching out, because I would have felt bad if no one had reached out to me. So let's get into your story. Can you please introduce yourself, tell us your name, and also when did your journey of migrating to the US, how did it start and when did it start?
Okay, well, my name is Jeanette Jones, and of course we work for, do we mention?
That's fine.
For HCA Healthcare Corporation. Yeah. And yes, I saw your post on our shared colleague network, and I thought, well, the immigrant voyage, well, I'm an immigrant.
Yes.
And I had a voyage. And of course, considering what's happening in the world today, it's a subject that I'd love to explore more, given that I'm a little bit far removed from a fresh immigrant coming to the U.S. Well, coming to the U.S., I've been here for over 50 years.
50 good years.
50 good
wow.
years. I was 7 years old when I came back in the 70s. I'm not going to say what year. But my story began with my oldest brother. We are 23 years apart in age.
Wow.
There's my mother and father together had 10 children.
Okay.
But my father has 13 kids, but we're all children of the family, because the way we were raised, it was that even though in our culture back then, it was acceptable that men had girlfriends throughout the marriage, but the children from my father's children we were all children of the family,
okay,
if you will, because my mother accepted those kids as her children.
Okay.
And in all honesty, I did not realize that those siblings, of course, they're older than me. There's one younger than me. I'm number 12 of 13. One younger than me. The ones that were born within that are older than me, I did not realize we didn't have the same parentage until I was much older.
Wow.
Because we saw them all the time. We communicated. They were there at family gatherings, and of course my mother considered them her children. There was no way of me not knowing that they weren't her children.
Wow.
And I do know that, of course, my mom and dad have passed on, and their mom has passed on. Two of my brothers and one of my sister's parents have passed on. But when my mom died, all the kids were listed as her children.
Really?
Yes. And when my brother's mom died, all the kids were listed as her children.
Even the kids that were not biologically born by her
were listed as her children.
Interesting.
And even the rest of us, when my older brother's mom passed, all the kids were listed as her children. And when my youngest sister, when her mom passed, all the kids were listed as her children. Because I do remember growing up when I had seen, they would see us out when we were walking be like, oh, hey, that's, my daughter, let me, help her out, whatever. I remember that as very short memory. Like I said, I did come here when I was 7. And, I didn't say that. Well, I am from Haiti.
Okay.
And I grew, the town where my family's from is called Pétionville.
Okay.
And I don't know the distance, but it's outside of Port-au-Prince.
Okay.
So, but of course, I'm thinking from a 7-year-old's mind, right? So I don't know a whole lot because I did grow up here in the States, and I hadn't returned to Haiti until my mom had passed. So she passed here in the States, but yet we had taken her body back to be buried in Haiti, and that was back in the late 70s when that happened. So I hadn't been in Haiti for like a long time until that happened. So of course I really didn't know kind of my way around. But yeah.
So you came to the US when you were just 7 years old.
Yes.
How was that? Even at that stage, I'm sure that that was still like a formative period for you. At 7 years, were there any kind of cultural shock? Can you remember, any shock, any disappointment getting to the US, or any surprise?
Well, what was surprising was when we left Haiti, I remember my oldest sister, she was the one that aided us in our journey going to immigration office, things like that.
Okay.
Because I'm going to go back a few. So my oldest brother was in the States first, and then my dad was in the States, and then my mom and one of my older brothers came to the States, and around that time, I think I was maybe 4 years old. Okay. So for 3 years, I didn't see my mother. Wow. So when 3 years later, when we're coming into the States, and I recalled from Haiti, we came through Miami, which was fine. I remember we had sandals and a pretty little dress and all of that, and everything is good. And then we land in Chicago in November.
Wow.
So dead of winter, cold, freezing, and I'm thinking, and I remember my mom was greeting us. She had a coat and boots, and I'm like, what are those things for?
Are those dressed like this?
Well, I didn't know until I got outside. It's like, oh, well, that's why I keep those boots and the coats and the pants and that, because I had my pretty little dress on. And yeah, that was kind of shocking because I didn't know winter as well, living on a tropical island.
Yeah.
I mean, you get cold, you wear a sweater, but a coat with a hat, gloves, boots, and all of that, that was a little bit shocking for us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you may take a step back, yes, you came when you were 7 years old. Was there a reason for your relocation?
Well, I know that my oldest brother, like I said, came for an educational opportunities.
Okay.
So, and given that with the opportunities that's afforded as far as education is concerned, it's not that we couldn't have stayed in Haiti and received that. However, given that there was a lot of us kids, it was pretty expensive because at that time there weren't any public schools. All the schools were either boarding schools or it was private schools that you had to pay for. So the opportunity afforded itself that, hey, my children can get a better opportunity with education and be able to be more economically on a better footing than being there. And then too, the thought was it'd be easier to transition back and forth, to be able to go back and forth. Because actually for the time, maybe the 3-4 years we were here, that's what my dad did. He would go back and forth because you would work here and then you would send money back home to help your family back home that couldn't, considering the socioeconomic status of a lot of people on that island, is that there's not a whole lot of, there wasn't a whole lot of industry or a track for them to be professionals if you couldn't afford it. If somebody couldn't afford to better themselves, then they kind of stayed in a state of poverty, if you will. I mean, we were fortunate that my father and mother, they both their families owned land. So that was kind of like, if you didn't own your own land, then it was harder for you to make a living. Because when you have your own land, you can grow produce, you have animals, and then you go to market and you sell them at market. My father, by trade, he was a carpenter, so he had that trade that he'd build houses. He would make brick. Okay. He was a brick maker too, so he had like a little factory kind of thing, so he would be able to do that. I mean, he was able to support us, but the financial support here was a lot better than it was there.
So at the end of the day, in seeking for a better opportunity.
Better
all right.
Opportunities.
So that is good. Knowing that you came when you were 7 years old, how did you adapt to the culture of living here? What about any language barrier?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, growing up, not growing up, but for the time I was in Haiti, at school, we speak language called Creole, French Creole, or Haitian Creole, if you will. And it's like a mixture language. It has like Spanish, some African language, and the English and the French, of course, more heavily French based. And in school, we spoke French. Okay. At home, you spoke Creole. Okay. And at that time, when I was growing up, Creole was not a written language as it is today. So when we would write in French. I could read French. I could speak French. But don't ask me to speak.
I was about to ask you.
I can understand and I can read it. Okay. But I can't speak it very well. Wow, okay. But I can speak the Haitian Creole. Okay. But don't ask me to write it, because I can't write it, because I never learned how to do that when I was younger. Okay. But the barrier, there was a huge language barrier. Now I do recall that when we were enrolled in school, we had the opportunity that my parents, I don't know if it was through the school system, they were able to get someone that would help translate for us. Okay. I remember staying later after school that this person would help translate into French what we had to do. The only thing that you didn't have to translate was the math. Of course, the numbers were the same. We could do math and we excelled well in math, but everything else, we needed someone to interpret for us to help tutor us. But what helped us quite a great deal was public television. So I'm sure a lot of immigrants probably share watching Sesame Street, Electric Company, anything that was on PBS. Yes. We watched a lot of PBS, and that's how we learned how to master the English language. Really? And actually our parents, just to assimilate ourselves, would require us to speak English at home so that we can immerse ourselves in the language so that we're able to, to fare better out there. Wow. Yeah. Interesting. So it was difficult, but it was well, I guess we shared that in common, because I didn't come by myself. My 4 sisters and 1 brother, so it was 5 of us that came at the same time. Okay. So which we helped each other. Yeah. Interesting. So it's amazing that you mentioned that you rely so much on public television to learn even how to speak English. How do you feel now that the government is, I don't know to the extent, but that there was an attempt to actually defund or to close down some of these public televisions? Yeah, that honestly, that hurts my heart, because I mean, even as an adult, I still watch public television. I support public television because, I mean, my children watched Sesame Street, PBS. We watched a lot of that, and it hurts me because there are some, for what my parents was not able to teach us, we were able to learn that through public television.
Wow.
So it was almost like another, it's educational for us, because they came here as adults. So there's a big culture shock with that. And there's a difficulty in easing into the language as adults. So there were certain things that they couldn't understand and they wouldn't be able to teach us. So they relied on that support that you had through the public television in order to help us with our development.
Interesting. Now, there was an idea that, well, not even an idea, something that I recently got to know as we were talking about it now, it came to my mind, is what they call adultification of Black young girls. That Black young girls are assumed to be matured than their age. That, let's say, because you came here when you were 7 years old, that's why I want to know if it's something that you can relate with. That generally, because of the nature of the people in this country, that Black girls are assumed to be much more older, matured, and they don't give them much opportunity and chances. They are assumed to be much more aggressive, and they are also assumed to be troublesome because of their skin color. Did you experience anything like that as a Black girl in the U.S.?
I can't say that I did, simply because I think there was what's the word I'm looking for? There was strength in numbers.
Okay.
Strength in numbers. And I say that because I have my sister who is 2 years older than me, and then of course the next sister after her is 5 years older than me, and then the next one from her is 7 years older than me. So at any time when and we were saying this off camera, that my closest relationships, my closest confidants are my sisters. So, and I recall, like, my dad would always say, I didn't send you out there to make friends, and that's why you have a lot of brothers and sisters. So if ever I felt threatened or felt in an awkward position, I would always run to my sisters, and they were always there to, like, protect me or to help me. So we didn't associate a whole lot with a lot of outside people until we were much older. So I can't say I experienced that per se as a child. Because I was not in that type of environment that I was being influenced by people outside of my home. So, but when we were in school or anything, I don't recall anyone assuming that I was older than I was. I don't think I've not experienced that. Maybe no, I don't know.
It's all right.
I don't think so. Not as a child, but I do understand what you mean, because I have seen that in society, and I've seen that even in the news, if you will. Whereas they'll refer to a teenager, a child, as a child, like, let's say there was an offensive thing that happened, it's a young Black youth, male, they would say, that man or that young man, but they would never say that he's a teenager. But I've noticed that in the media, they've not said he, they don't usually tell their age, and I've seen where they prosecute them as adults more so than people not of color.
Interesting. Okay. So, knowing that, you came to the U.S. at a very tender age, in a sense, we will say that your views, so tell me, your views about family, marriage, and even parenting, I don't know, maybe you will tell us, the kind of parenting style that you experienced growing up in Haiti and when you were in the US as a child and even now as a mother. What are your take on that when it comes to values and principles and custom like that?
Yeah, so our values, of course, speaking for my own family, I can't say it's all of Haitian people, but I think for the most part that you're brought up to respect your elders, period. So even if they're being disrespectful to you, you do not return that disrespect with disrespect because they are your elders.
Really?
Now, you don't have to be happy about it. However, you can't enter into like an argument or a shouting match with someone that's your elder because that's just not done.
Wow.
Because they are your elder, they deserve some type of respect or reverence, if you will, because now what you can do is go talk to your elder person about it. Like, say if I was something that was not correct said to me by someone, my elder, I would go to my own family elder and say, well, hey, this person said this to me, and for them to have that conversation with the elder. But as a child, it's not for me to have that conversation because that's just not done. Because that's considered completely disrespectful. Even though they're disrespecting me, I cannot return the disrespect with disrespect. I have to always stay in my being respectful because that's my family's belief. Like you cannot have someone make you step outside your character because of something that they're
two wrongs doesn't make it right.
Exactly. So with that being said, as being one of the youngest, I had to show respect to my older siblings. And actually to this day, I have to respect my older siblings, even though the one is just 2 years older than me. She's earned that right. Like, I'm your older sister. I was the one that was there to protect you. That I've earned that disrespect. Like, I don't speak foul to my sisters. If they've asked me a direct questions, I provide them an answer. Sometimes I can respectfully say, I choose not to answer that, and they respect that. But yet, we usually but my eldest sister, the one she's 21 years older than me, she's like a mom to me because when my mom was here in the States, that's who brought me up. So for her, she's like, you cannot say a foul word because, she'll whip my butt. And I can't do anything about it, If she were to choose to do that, she would never do that. But if she asks me to do something, I'm obligated to do it. Other than commit a crime, I'm not going to do that.
Definitely.
But if she's like, I need you to go get this for me, even though it's right there and she can get it, I have to get up and get it because that's how our parents brought us up. So,
but in contrast to what you've noticed and seen, growing up here as a child, do you see an opposite, or what do you see?
I see the opposite because, of course, the country is so I'm free. I'm an American. I can do whatever I want. Well, I understand that, but of course, culturally, I am not. So I can't do that. Even if I wanted to, I do it in private under my breath. But I would never. I just couldn't do it because it'd be outside of my character, and I just can't. Because I don't recall ever getting into like a shouting match with someone who had something with me. We can have a conversation, but I'm not going to shout back and forth with you because what's the point?
So don't you think kids or younger people are at a disadvantage in a culture like that, where they cannot either speak up for themselves or defend themselves when an elderly person abuse them or take advantage of their rights?
Now, for that, I would say, just from personal experience, that I had such protection that I know that if anything were to happen to me, I can always go to my sibling, and I know they would believe me.
Okay.
Of course, I made sure that I wasn't one to just tell them untruths so that they didn't trust me. So we grew up with a sense of trust,
okay.
and it was like not even acceptable if my dad ever caught somebody in a lie, then he better not catch you twice in a lie, because it just was not done. He ran a tight ship. Even though he was back and forth going to Haiti when we were growing up, we still had to follow those rules, whether he was there or not, because what would he do if we were disrespectful to our mom, or he heard that we were disrespectful to the neighbor or something? You'd have to answer to him, because he's like, that is not what we do. We do not do that.
Interesting.
So yeah, no. And that's kind of how my daughters, of course, they were all born here in the States. I mean, they, as adults now, they see things a little bit differently because they might get into a shouting match with somebody, but not very easily. They would have to be extremely provoked to do that, because that would be outside their character as well. But they, they're like, well, there's certain things that people just need to know that it's not okay for them to do that. And sometimes being quiet doesn't get stuff done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, talking about culture, do you still feel connected to your cultural roots, even though you came here at 7 years old? And how did you balance that?
Well, there's certain traditions, I guess, that you still follow, because you do that here in the home and you incorporate that in your daily life. Okay. Whether that's with the food. Yeah, of course, there's always the food. And certain dress, or certain or even with the music. Okay. I get the music, and then of course now with the way the internet and stuff, is you're able to see the movies and things of that nature. And of course now, given the way the state of the island is right now with the whole gang violence situation, so what we try and do is we of course gather as siblings, because we all live in different states now, so we gather as siblings. And of course, when we were trying to do quote unquote a pilgrimage or even a reunion into the country, that's when COVID happened. And then after COVID, you had all this turmoil now with the president being assassinated and all that. But but prior to that, what we would try and do is connect with some of our more distant relatives that still live there on the island. So to try and go back to nature. How will you feel if somebody said that you are not an American because you were not born here? Well, what I would say to that is, then you can say that because I wasn't born here, but they can go back into their family trees and find that they have family that wasn't born here. So if we're looking at that, you could consider that their person was an immigrant too at one time, and now they've assimilated, and now they're here in the country. No, because this is a country that was not that it was founded, but immigrants landed here.
Absolutely.
And they assimilated. And then the country is now Well, I've always heard it's a melting pot.
Yes.
It's a country of immigrants. So, no, you can't say that to me.
So what's
This is the only country I've known to live in.
So that is what I'm trying to get to, that people like you that came at a very tender age, that have little to no connection to your cultural country, and that this is the only country that you know as a country. In the light of the current government policy towards immigrants and immigration, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I go from being mad, frustrated, sad, disappointed. It's a roller coaster almost every single day with what I see in the news, and I struggle with the fact that how is this right? How is this right that people are being treated not like people?
Wow.
I mean, we're human beings. We have a directive as being believers. If you believe in another power, that we are relegated to care for our fellow man, if you will, and to treat. Some things I've seen in the news where people aren't even being treated as human beings. I almost feel like there are the people that are responsible for collecting the people have a license to just kidnap people in broad daylight. I mean, they're just picking people up and asking people questions, and I think it wasn't too long ago I heard that they're not going to be asking school children what their status is. Kids don't know. They don't know what that means. A child wouldn't know what that means. Like, I don't know if someone had asked me at that age, oh, well, what's your status? And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? What does that mean? Granted, we were fortunate enough to come to the States as legal residents, as permanent residents. But that's not so easy to obtain nowadays, because people come on a visa and hope to go through the process. But then now you have people that are trying to go to the process are being sent back to a country that either they escaped due to civil war, political unrest, gang violence. I mean, people are trying to better their lives. They're trying to stay alive. And now you're sending them back somewhere where basically it's a death sentence for some people. It just makes me sad.
What is the current state of life in Haiti right now? And in terms of development, leadership, economy, and what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that, because I don't get all of the news from there, other than certain things that I'll see pop up on my news feed in different platforms that I follow. I do know it's still very unstable. But but that's in the capital area, in the surrounding areas around the capital, because there are outlying areas where it's almost like they're completely immune to all of that. Because I think in the northern part of the country, it's very beautiful. People are still traveling there and going there, and they're doing well. But of course, for someone like me, my family lived closer to the capital, so it's like I wouldn't be able to go, because how do I get there and get there safely? Wow. It's hard, but yeah, I stay prayerful. I stay prayerful, and I know that because I do know that Haitian people are people of very deep resiliency, and having the tenacity to will to fight what some people may consider a losing battle, being the first independent enslaved nation in the world. They were able to do a whole lot with very little. by kicking the French out
right.
to become independent. And when they did that, which they even were able to help other countries become independent, they sent help to other countries. They assisted other islands. In fact, that from what I understand, that revolt, if you will, kind of spurred along some of the stuff that was occurring here in the United States to cause enslaved people in the States to, to no longer stand for that. Because why would you treat people like that? I just don't understand. And I do know that with the history of this country that there was they used some spirituality to keep people in that way, because when enslaved people, I think, started to be able to read the English language, use the books, and there was two different Bibles. They had a Bible for enslaved people and a Bible for everybody else. And the portions of the Bible where it talked about your fellow man and everyone being seen by God as his children and being of equal play. Some of those parts of that scripture was taken out of the enslaved Bible to just focus on the parts that talked about slaves be loyal to your masters and things like that. But it never talked about the other side of that, where you're supposed to care for your fellow man, But
that's painful. Well, let's move into the triumph part, and I love to talk about success stories. Now, what will you consider as your proudest achievement as an immigrant?
Goodness. My proudest achievement. Oh my goodness. Well, there's not one particular.
Yeah, it can be many. Just can share a couple with us.
Of course, I'm very proud of my children. I have 3 daughters.
Wonderful.
My youngest daughter is currently she just completed her 2nd year for her master's degree at the University of Iowa in Iowa City.
Okay, nice.
So she's got 1 more year to go. And my older 2 daughters are doing very well in their respective professions. Nice. With working, one's in the hotel business and the other one works. She's actually kind of IT administrator with certain programs for her company. She works with TKE Elevators. TK Elevators, I think it's called. I'm spacing out on the name. So I'm very proud of my children.
Good.
I am proud of myself for being able to navigate through, this life here in the States, given that my parents passed when I was my mom passed when I was very young. I was 13 going on 14 when she died.
Wow.
And of course my dad died much later, but he was already he had retired and was living in Haiti. But I'm proud of my being able to go through school and achieve the things that my parents foresaw for me, that I used that being in the United States, using the opportunity afforded through education to earn my degree, get my master's degree, and work a very job that I love and be a productive member of society.
That's wonderful.
Being able to volunteer and give back and that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm proud of that. Yes, absolutely.
That is good. Now, you talk about that, even growing up, that your immediate families were like a sort of the community that you have. Beyond your immediate family, even when you are much more older as an adult, even as a parent, what role will you consider networking within your community or even outside of your community play in your career success as an immigrant?
Yeah, I actually I tend to gravitate to people of other cultures.
Interesting.
More so, I mean, and maybe that's a bias, more so than someone that's born in, I'm using quotations,
Okay.
that's American.
Okay.
Because I share a kinship, because we're immigrants, right? We speak a different language. We have different foods. I feel that people of other cultures or from other countries tend to be a little bit more adventurous. By one, they left their country to come here.
Yeah.
And two, that they're a little bit more willing to try things that are different.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, and I know you had mentioned getting out of the comfort zone.
Yes.
So I think we're more attuned to being comfortable with the uncomfortable, if you will,
interesting.
because it's not a comfortable thing to leave what you know and what's already in your nature to go and do something else. Or go seek out something different, or to go out and brave a new world, if I can use that term. I don't know if it's trademarked, but to do that. But I tend to gravitate to people that are, whoever's considered different, that's usually the person that I tend to more gravitate to, because I'm like, oh, what are they about? That's, I want to know more.
That is interesting. So in the quest for that, were there people who are very helpful to you in your journey growing up, that serve maybe as a mentor, as a guardian in one way or the other, that if you are to reflect, they quickly come to mind? And what makes them to stand out?
Well, I do recall, I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, there was an English teacher that was very challenging. And I recall that none of the kids wanted to be in his class because he was considered the tough teacher. But I felt that teacher, the challenge is that I like to rise to that challenge. Okay. So I felt like I learned more. It was difficult. It was trying because I struggled initially in the class, but I learned to love the class because I was reading books that I never thought I would read before. Interesting. And I was learning about different ways of the world that I didn't know before. And usually, and that kind of continued throughout, like, my when I was in college, and even through working as a nurse, I tend to learn more when I'm challenged. And when people underestimate my abilities, then I want to prove them wrong. Correct. I guess that's my little competitive nature, because I am competitive in nature, because I was like, well, you think I can't do that? Well, I'll show you.
I'll show you.
Exactly. Because I can say my sophomore English teacher, and then of course my older brother, he's the eldest. He came to the States as an adult and completely had to relearn everything and change careers. He was, I want to say he must have been 25 when he came to the States. I think he was 25. He was already a professor in Haiti, but he came to the States and worked as he drove the city bus to pay for school. What? And of course, he knew some English already. Yeah. And because I think he spoke English and Spanish, but he went back to college to get a medical degree. My brother became a physician. He was well into his 30s and was interning, and he was a general surgeon, and then went back to school to become an intensivist. Wow. A fellow with in critical care, to be an intensivist physician. So, I mean, he's very inspiring. And he's one that he kind of laid down the gauntlet for the rest of us because as being the eldest, he had to set that path for us. And I'm very grateful to my older brother. And then, of course, one of my middle brothers, I'm very grateful to, because he came with my mom at age 17 and worked really hard to make it possible for them to be able to send for us younger set, because to be able to bring 5 kids to the United States and tell the U.S. government that, no, I'm going to support this family of mine and not use, my intent is not to use government assistance to do this. My family worked really hard to support us, because back then you had to show that you're able to afford this family that you're trying to bring to the States, and not, try and pawn off the government. So, so I'm very grateful to my brothers. And my English teacher, and then, and that one nurse manager that challenged me to, that thought that I wouldn't succeed as a nurse on her unit, and I became the manager.
Interesting. That's I like that kind of story. That is quite inspiring and challenging.
Yeah, she didn't know that she would be somebody that I'd be grateful to. But I was grateful to her. I'm good now. I wasn't then, but I am now, because I wanted to show her, well, I'll show you what I can do.
And you did.
Yes.
That is amazing. I love stories like that. So, what is one misconceptions that you think Americans generally have about immigrants or people from Haiti that you would like to correct?
Well, I think in general, they think immigrants are here to take something away from them, but we only add to what's already here. We're hard workers. I know Haitian people are very hard workers. We're very proud people, and we're very accepting of other people. Very, very accepting of other people, and we're gracious for what we have, and we're also grateful for what others bring to the table. So to me, that can only add to that can only add to somebody else. So I think, embrace your fellow immigrant is what I say.
Embrace your fellow immigrant.
Yes.
Even if you are born here or not, we are all immigrants.
Yes, I think immigrants are hard workers, because given the fact that they're coming, most people, especially from some of the islands, come to this country and work. When they have a job, it doesn't matter the level they're at that job. They will do that job to the best of their ability, because no job is beneath them to do when it comes to supporting their family. And that's one thing I can say culturally that my parents instilled in me, and I do in my children. I said, I don't care what the job is that you're doing, you better do the best darn job that you can. I don't care if you're sweeping the floor, cleaning the toilet, you better be the best toilet scrubber they have, because that's your character. You lead with your character. So whether you're the CEO, the person mopping the floor, scrubbing the toilets, I don't care. You do it to the best of your ability, because I don't want anyone to say that, oh gosh, she's the worst toilet scrubber I ever seen. Oh no, it's going to be shiny.
Wow, interesting. I like that. So if you could bring one thing from Haiti and make it popular here in the US, what would that thing be?
Well, it'd have to be the food and the music. Of course, I'm not taking away from you, but I have to say we have the best food in the world.
So do you still get to eat and prepare the food like you would love to if you were back home?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Love to do it. My husband loves it. My kids love it.
So what will that food be?
Well, there's a dish it's rice with the mushroom. It's a black mushroom. They call it Dimeji.
Okay.
It's very good, very flavorful.
Really?
People make it in different ways.
Yes.
Some people add shrimp and green peas to it.
Yeah.
Some people will add other different spices, but of course we make the spice by most people use a food processor now, but I remember being a little girl that we used to do the mortar and pestle, and I have one of those at home. I use from time to time, but you cut the different, the onion, the pepper, the garlic, and all the different spices you want to put in there, and you do that by hand. There's nothing in order to spice up your food. It's just so flavorful.
Interesting.
And there's nothing like it. In making stuff by culturally, we like to eat fresh food. So most of the time, for me to make a authentic meal, I would always tell my kids and my husband, I need a day off to do this because I have to go to the market and get it, because I can't do something that's been sitting in the refrigerator for a week, and I'm not going to use something that's frozen because I don't know how long it's been in the store. But of course, the vegetables, I know those, that's a little iffy, but at least I can look at it and take the freshest one I have, and I can clean it the way I want and cut it up the way I want and make it. But it's a process. It takes a long time to make an authentic meal. I'm sure you can relate.
Absolutely.
Right?
I can.
Because you got to make it fresh.
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting. So, if there is somebody in Haiti right now that is just getting to the US now, what would be your advice for that person?
I would hope that they have someone here already that they can connect with.
Okay.
To help guide them through different processes. Of course, for me, I had family already here, but and I'm not sure of how big the community is, specifically here in Nashville, but maybe navigate yourself to a place or an area where there's people of your own culture, so that you can get some kind of kinship from that. That's what I would advise, because you need that connection, even though you're connecting with others outside, but you need that own connection with people with your own culture. It helps keep you grounded, and so that you don't lose certain things, because I think that's what enriches the world, is that we're so different. It's so enriching to learn about other people. Yes, you have your own connection, but then venturing out and sharing those what makes us different, I think eventually, it makes you the same, but sharing those is good.
As we begin to round up this session, one of my last questions is, what does home mean to you now?
Oh my gosh. What does home mean? Home means to me is when I'm together with I have to say, it's when I'm just laughing and enjoying time with my family. And I don't say that not necessarily my blood family, but people that's within our circle as a family, whether that's close friends or friends of friends. And when we gather together and you can sit around and tell stories and, eat great Haitian food, listen to Haitian music. And of course, I say Haitian music, but Haitian people, when they have a party, we play every music.
I see.
We love the soca. We like the zouk. We like the salsa, the merengue. We like hip hop. We like the rap. We like the rock and roll. We like the country music. We like all of it. We play all of it at when we have a get together. So home is having a big get together where people are getting along and sharing stories. Sharing stories, being friendly, but you got to eat some great Haitian food.
Well, I need to take you up on that.
And I'm not biased because I do like other foods too. I like other foods. I can't say. I mean, you're Nigerian. So
yes.
You do fufu.
Yes, we do fufu, and our jollof rice is the best.
Yes, and I love jollof rice. Actually, my sister makes that at home.
Oh, really? Yeah. Nice. Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, I want to taste that special Haitian food one day.
Yeah.
So, will you ever go back and settled in Haiti?
That's a hard question. I would, but only if I had somebody there that would be able to help me, because I do not know the way of life there, because I've not. The only memory I have of living there is from when I was a child. I wouldn't know how to navigate my way. And of course, right off the bat, if I'm speaking the language, people will tell that, oh, that's a foreigner trying to speak our language. Because I do recall when we went to Haiti the first time, and my own nieces and nephews like, oh, she's speaking with an accent, because I was speaking my own language with an American accent.
And they are saying you are speaking in accent even back in Haiti.
Yes.
And when you are here in the US people will say you're also speaking in accent.
Exactly. And of course, when I'm like nervous or frustrated, you could hear my accent a little bit more. But of course, I've lived in two different states. So, being that I'm a transplant here in Nashville, because I grew up in Chicago, when I first came here, people said I spoke with an accent. And when I went back to visit with my family, and they're saying now, well, you have a country accent. And I'm like, I don't know.
So where do you belong?
Exactly. I belong everywhere. I belong everywhere, I guess. But yeah, I would have to, in order for me to live there, I would have to be there with someone that knows the country well, because I wouldn't know what to do.
Navigate.
I wouldn't know where to go, what to do, or how to even live my life, because I only know my life here in the States.
On the last note, are you concerned or worried that your children will not be connected to your cultural roots, and that are you worried about that?
Yeah, that I do have concerns with that, because they didn't grow up with kids with other Haitian kids. Because my husband is not Haitian; he's American, and they didn't get to. Being that there's such an age gap between me and my older siblings, because my one sister who's 2 years older than me, she's her kids are much older, not at least 6 or 7 years older than my oldest child. So it's not like they grew up with their cousins to be able to learn the language. Some of their cousins do speak the language, but my closest cousins that I speak Creole with are my eldest sister's children, because they and I grew up together, because her oldest child and myself were only 8 months apart. Wow. So it's almost like I'm a sibling to them, and they're kind of close to me as siblings, but yet their kids we're not in the same state, so my kids didn't have the opportunity to be immersed in the language or in the culture as much, other than what little bit they had from me, and my bandwidth is from a 7-year-old. Wow. I do worry, because it's getting a little bit lost. But my youngest daughter is immersing herself a little bit, because she speaks some words. She understands. She can read and understand it better than she can speak it. But my older two, They only know certain words, a couple of words. But if you were to speak a full sentence to them,
they're lost.
Yeah, they would know. What? But that is concerning. I kind of hope that they would, want to speak more and learn more about it. But yeah, that's concerning. Yes.
Well, let's hope that there'll be opportunity for you all to go back and visit home, and that will make them to reconnect back to that culture, because our cultures are very rich, and that the more they are connected, the better for all of us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on this show. This has been very fun and exciting, and I hope our guests and our watchers I hope you have learned something impactful to share and to know her story. It's fun. As a 7-year-old, she moved to the US, and here she is. She has gone through the transition, she has gone through the trials, and here she is. She is triumphant here in the US. So till we see you next time, take care of yourself, and bye.